Team IAS Network. Today we are having a discussion on General Studies 2 Polity. As I said earlier, General Studies 2 consists of polity, governance, international relations. So today we are going to talk on the polity aspect. So polity, this particular video which we are discussing, it is on the assumption that you would have had some basic information about polity. So this will supplement whatever information you already have. In case you do not have, we'll try and make it as simple as possible for you. See the question for discussion. In GS2 Polity, we are speaking of rule of law. So something about rule of law. Where is rule of law found in the Constitution? It is found in Article 14. Article 14 says, equality before law, equal protection of law. That is Article 14 in the fundamental rights. Now, see the question. The executive must align itself with the Constitution and the judiciary must act as the protector of the Constitution. So by the executive, what do I mean by the executive? I mean the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers of the Center. It could also mean the Chief Minister and Council of Ministers at the state. So that is the executive. So the question says the executive must align itself with the Constitution and the judiciary must act as a protector of the Constitution. Substantiate your answer in 200 words. Now this particular question, we'll discuss the background, why we are discussing this particular topic. See, sometime back we had the police entry into the Aligarh Muslim University and the state trying to clamp down on the protesters and again banning internet facilities in several areas of the country, coupled with imposition of Section 144. Now, in the background of these incidents, we want to consider whether we should have rule of law or rule by law. Now, what is rule of law? First, we'll discuss about rule of law. In S.P. Gupta versus Union of India, the Supreme Court held that Article 14, rule of law is the core of the Constitution. So this concept of rule of law we have borrowed from the British Constitution. As I told you, most of the features of the Constitution are based on the Constitution of UK. So in S.P. Gupta versus Union of India, the Supreme Court said that Article 14 is the core of the Constitution. That is rule of law. Now, what are the components of rule of law? The components of rule of law are given by A.V. Dicey, D-I-C-E-Y, a political thinker. He explains the concept of rule of law. The first important concept would be absence of discretionary power in the hands of the officials. So once the bureaucracy, the government officials have discretionary power, it leads to harassment, it leads to misuse of authority, and consequently the citizenry will suffer due to the vesting of discretionary powers in the officials. Of course, discretionary power is there, but it should not be used to harm anybody. So the first component of rule of law is absence of discretionary power in the hands of the government officials. The second component of rule of law, no person should be made to suffer except for a distinct breach of law. So by this I mean you cannot punish anybody except for violating a law which should be in force at that time. No person should be made to suffer except for a breach of law. So in this, how I substantiate is, you can punish a person for violating a law which is in existence. You cannot punish a person for a violation of a law which is still in the making or which is still not promulgated by the legislature. So the second component of rule of law would be, no person shall be made to suffer except for a breach of law. The third component of rule of law, the rights of the people must flow from the customs and traditions of the people, recognized by the courts in the interests of justice. So by this I mean, how do you determine individual rights? They are determined by customs and traditions, and this is recognized by the court. Say for instance, in elaboration of this principle, see now the court recognizes part 3 of the constitution. Part 3 is fundamental rights. Fundamental rights again, starting from article 13 going up to article 32. So you see, in fact, you see article 13, it clearly says the state cannot make any law which takes away the fundamental rights of the people. So it is known fundamental rights are the product of customs and conventions, and these rights are recognized by the court. So these are the three principles of rule of law propounded by Dicey. Once again, for the sake of revision, the first principle of rule of law, absence of discretionary power in the hands of the government officials. It is to prevent harassment and to prevent misuse of authority. The second principle, nobody should be made to suffer except for a distinct breach of law. The third principle, the rights of the people come from the customs and traditions of the people, recognized by the courts. So these are the three principles of rule of law. Now what is rule by law? In rule by law, it means the sovereign or the ruler, there is unlimited power on the sovereign. The king can do no wrong. The sovereign is not subject to legal scrutiny. Then unbridled power on the state missionary. The state missionary is absolute. So these four concepts refer to rule by law. In rule by law, we are speaking of a powerful sovereign. We are speaking of the state actions of the state not subject to legal scrutiny. We are speaking of the state missionary being all powerful. This is one aspect. This is called rule by law. Now when we come to the discussion on the question, we say the executive must align itself with the constitution. So the executive is bound by the concept of rule of law. It is bound by Article 14. It cannot act in an indiscriminate manner. There is no question of unbridled power on the state missionary, because you can always go to court if the state missionary misuses authority, and it is not that anybody can escape legal scrutiny. This rule by law is a theoretical concept, and we have explained what it comprises. Now, when you see the functioning of the Supreme Court, the question says the judiciary must act as the protector of the Constitution. Has the judiciary acted in this manner? I'll give an example. When the Aligarh Muslim University, when the police entered the campus, the Supreme Court did not do anything. It left it to the state government to control violence. It said, unless the violence stops in the campus, the Supreme Court will not hear anything. Now, when somebody goes to the Supreme Court under Article 32, the Supreme Court is bound to hear it. It is a fundamental right. That is the right to approach the Supreme Court. In this case, the Supreme Court kept quiet. Then I'll give another example. In the Sabrimala case, when women wanted to enter the temple, the Supreme Court said it will not come in the way of women devotees. It just asked the state to give them protection. Compare these two with another judgment of the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court became an activist. See, in the Hyderabad fake police encounters case, it withdrew the case which is pending before the High Court of Andhra Pradesh to itself, and it said you should appoint a retired judge to go into the case of fake encounters. So now here we see how the Supreme Court has adopted double standards. In certain cases, leaving it to the executive to decide, and in certain cases, doing the work of the executive, that is judicial activism. So these are the contradictory stands taken by the Supreme Court in these cases. So what I want to mention in this answer would be each organ of government should work according to the rule of law. And what is the role of the citizen? The citizen should be law abiding, and the state should recognize the voice of the people. That is democracy. Unless it hears the voice of the people, democracy cannot be strengthened. Government cannot go by rule by law. It has to go only according to the rule of law. So only when government observes the rule of law will the public have faith in government and enforcement machinery. So that is why we say that to see that the rule of law is in operation, all the organs of government, whether it is legislature, whether it is executive, whether it is the judiciary, they must act to promote, they must act in accordance with the provisions of the constitution, and the voice of the people needs to be heard to strengthen democracy. It is only then that we can say that the people will have faith in government. When all the organs of the government are acting in unison, when they're acting according to rule of law, only then people will have faith in government and enforcement machinery. So for a discussion on this particular topic which we took on GS2 polity, rule of law, first we gave a brief introduction. Then we came to the components of rule of law. We said how in SP Gupta versus Union of India, the Supreme Court clearly said Article 14 is a part of the Constitution. Then we explained the components of the rule of law, three components. We also compared rule by law. What is rule by law? What it presupposes? And how rule by law cannot be adopted in the Indian context or in any democratic context. Then we saw the Supreme Court, how it has acted differently on different occasions, and how the Supreme Court is trying to go into the sphere of the executive, that is judicial activism, by directing the state to do this, to do that. So when such things happen, or when any one agency tries to outpass or trespass into another agency's working, the functioning of democracy is in peril. Finally, I concluded by saying that the voice of the people needs to be considered, needs to be heard for democracy to survive. There cannot be any authoritarianism. Rule of law is the norm. Rule by law is an exception. Rule by law concepts are there, but the state cannot afford to antagonize the populace, especially in a democracy, since ultimately the executive is responsible to the people. Only when government observes the rule of law, only then will people have faith in government and the enforcement machinery. Thank you.